The promise of cloud gaming excites me. Yes, my affinity will most certainly remain with physical media until I'm old enough for my grandkids to get bored with my stories from back when games were for playing and clouds were for raining, damn it. But above all, even above the clouds themselves, I am a lover of video games, and if cloud gaming can make video games more available to people who want them, then I am all for it. And in this video, I'm going to examine one such cloud gaming offering, Amazon Luna. I'm going to focus mostly on the quality of the streaming experience and how well Luna handles input lag. Because no matter what else is positive about a game streaming service, input lag will immediately kill the experience. Like right now, my voice not being synced with my mouth is bugging the crap out of you right now, isn't it? Oh man. And the streaming quality had better be, I said that should be, the streaming quality, it must be great. Are we good? We buffered? We good? Please know that this video is not going to be a full review of the Luna platform. I'll have a video for that later where I'll talk about the user interface, the controller itself, the features, the cost, the game selection, all of that super fun stuff. And I'm also working on a direct comparison of Luna versus Stadia, the two cloud gaming platforms that I have the most experience with. So go ahead and subscribe to this channel and click the bell notification icon to ensure you don't miss those videos. They're probably gonna be great. I haven't made them yet. So why am I dedicating an entire video to just input latency and stream Sorry, I put myself to sleep there. I can only imagine what it's like for you, audience. I'm sorry. But don't fall asleep yet, because input lag and streaming quality are so important when it comes to cloud gaming. The easy answer as to why these things are so important is because input lag and poor streaming quality quite literally break the game. Video games are unique in that they demand skilled user input to function in their world of game rules. If the input is broken, the game is broken. If the input is broken, the rules that govern the game world can no longer be abided by the player. If the game needs me to time my jump just right, but also doesn't allow me to time my jump just right, the game has lied to me, and I don't like liar games. Same goes for stream quality, all that crap I just said about breaking the rules and such. That's all the same when it comes to talking about skipped frames due to a poor internet connection. So first, let's get some baseline metrics down. My internet connection is great. I don't want to brag, but it's super. My Wi-Fi connection is fast and stable, and my Ethernet is even faster and stabler. So I'm working with the best case scenario here, meaning if I have noticeable issues with Luna's performance, then I simply cannot recommend the service at all. If it's not good enough for the god of all megabits per second, then it's definitely not good enough for peons like you. So first, let's talk about controller input lag or input latency. Even though most of my gaming is done back there on that delightful chair using a TV and a wireless controller, I want to establish a baseline with a more controlled controller scenario. For that, I'm testing with this wired controller, a Logitech 679 piece of crap, I don't know. And to use the wired controller, I have to use the PC because Luna simply doesn't have a wired controller option when using the Fire Stick, which is what I've been using. So why am I using this specific controller instead of any of my other wired controllers? Well, it's because in my upcoming Stadia versus Luna video, I compare input lag against the two systems, and I needed a consistent controller that worked between the two platforms, and I don't feel like redoing all of the tests. And also, probably more importantly, no matter how many times my computer told me that other controllers were recognized just fine, Luna wouldn't cooperate. So here's some of the footage of the input latency testing I did. And as you can see with this baseline test when using a wired controller, the input timings are essentially the same, whether or not I'm using a Wi-Fi connection or an Ethernet connection. And it's also important to state here that I am using the Luna PC launcher, not the Chrome browser. Because no matter what requirements Luna tells me I need, I could not play Luna on the Chrome browser. After completing those tests, I also did play a few games without the scientific rigor of a camera and slowed down footage. And subjectively, I can say every game I played great. Regarding input latency specifically, of course, I was using this crappy Logitech controller, so every other part of my experience sucked. So with this baseline out of the way, let's compare against my everyday real-life scenario using a TV, the Fire Stick, the dedicated Luna controller, and oh, that delicious red chair back there, of course. And as you can see here, using the magic of super duper slow motion, this Wi-Fi controller setup actually has less lag than the wired controllers. This surprised the crap out of me. I fully expected the wired controller to perform way better here. So what's going on? Well, the Luna controller, just like the Stadia controller, doesn't rely on Bluetooth. Instead, it connects directly to your Wi-Fi network. I think that means that the signal isn't bottlenecking with the streaming service, whether that's with a PC or a Fire Stick, but rather it's sent sort of alongside the device's stream, so there's like 2 streams instead of like having to go through one. I don't know. However it works, I can say that this technology is an absolute game streaming revolution. I simply would not ever recommend using a wireless controller with a game streaming service unless that controller is Wi-Fi enabled. So is it a pass or a fail with the input latency testing? Every controller and internet configuration I tried had no noticeable input lag. But I still highly recommend the dedicated Luna Wi-Fi capable controller because the input lag is somehow even more not noticeable. Somehow, I don't know. It's great, definitely a pass on that test. So now let's talk about streaming quality. Streaming quality is so incredibly important. The difference between a game that never skips any frames and a game that skips frames only once every 10 minutes is the difference between a working platform and a broken platform. Now that may sound harsh, but it's true. The reality is that even if a game skips frames only every once in a while, the player isn't able to remain immersed in the game. The player is constantly preoccupied with wondering when the next skip is going to happen. The player's thinking, well, should I make this difficult jump or will the stream break? Should I start this boss fight now or will the stream break? A game streaming service must prove itself to the player with every single frame. So how does Amazon Luna hold up? Almost great. Now, during my dozen or so hours that I played on that scrumptious red chair over there streaming over Wi-Fi to the Fire Stick, I've encountered 6 or 7 instances of noticeable skipped frames. Now, that may not sound like much, but remember, I have amazing internet service. I shouldn't be experiencing any skipped frames. The streaming quality should be perfect for me 100% of the time, but it wasn't perfect. It was only near perfect. And furthermore, though this doesn't really concern me, Luna purports to run well on 10 megabits per second. Given that I've had issues with speeds many times more than that, I simply don't believe Amazon on this point. I don't know, maybe Luna runs games at that speed, but there's no way that they are playable at that speed. Now you might be screaming at me right now, but Caleb, maybe your internet connection is fast, but maybe it just has intermittent connection failures. Well, that's true, but that's still a hurdle that game streaming services have to overcome. And until they do, I'm allowed to complain when my experience suffers because of it. If game streaming platforms cannot overcome intermittent connection failures, then they shouldn't stream an interactive gaming service that is so dependent on no connection failures. And it's also possible that those skipped frames aren't network issues, but instead are issues with the game itself. You got me there. Yeah, maybe. Bear in mind, I am not saying streaming services shouldn't exist. Not at all. I subscribe to 3 different ones, and I will continue to do so. I really enjoy them. I am saying that these services have got to keep working to push for whatever infrastructure is necessary to eliminate any stream quality issues. 100%. So is it a pass or a fail for Luna on the streaming quality issue? I'm going to say a soft pass. I will always be hard on the issue of skipped frames no matter how seldom they happen. Sorry. So on these 2 most important criteria for cloud gaming, input latency and streaming quality, Amazon Luna is very strong. I've been really happy so far and will continue to subscribe to the service. When using the Luna controller, noticeable input latency simply just is not an issue at all. The Wi-Fi controller technology has solved that cloud gaming problem. It's done. I can put the controller down, I can dust my hands, we're good. Now when it comes to streaming quality, Amazon has a bit of work to do to eliminate skipped frames entirely, and eliminate them they must. And it's probably really important to note that this service is in beta right now, so it's expected that there's going to be some issues, so I do anticipate that they will be better over time. Oh, and remember, I am doing a Luna versus Stadia video soon, so subscribe to this channel so that you can watch that as soon as it's available. And let me know what you think in the comments below. Have you tried Luna? How do you feel about it? What would get you to try it, maybe if you haven't? Have you tried other cloud gaming platforms? If so, how do they compare to Luna? And also, do you think I'm too harsh on my conviction that streaming services should have 0 dropped frames? Other than frames due to poor game optimization, of course. And please consider subscribing to this channel. If you've watched this far into the video, you must have found something positive in it, right? So please click the subscribe button and the bell notification icon to make me smile.